I've always thought that Erdogan was much more cunning. He used much more tricky methods.
The difference between Russia and Turkey, I guess, there's a system in Russia which the system can persist without Putin. Imagine a president put the high judges into prison. I was in the same prison with them.
What do you think should happen to Erdogan?
He can be put in prison. Normally that should be the case. He did a lot of crimes and he had to be judged.
Democracy of the world is decided in Turkey.
Even if they don't care anymore the human rights issues, but you cannot go directly to a totalitarian regime like Russia.
Do you believe that Erdogan will lose, can lose?
I totally believe in so. That's why we've been fighting for 2 decades, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
And he was stronger before in the previous elections, but this time the opposition has a real chance.
What has happened to him? How, for us, for Russians,
Yeah.
it's really complicated to understand. He's in power approximately the same time as Putin is.
Yeah.
Putin since 2000, Erdogan since 2002. Okay, but they were always along with each other. They used the same tactics against media, against opposition. Probably, I've always thought that Erdogan was much more cunning and much more. He used much more tricky methods. A lot of plots against him unveiled, conspiracies unveiled. But finally, there is still an opposition. How explain that phenomenon? How, after 20 years of Erdogan in power, opposition can be so strong and can still exist?
This year is the 100th anniversary of Turkish Republic, and almost half of it we were in a democracy. It was a weak democracy, not a total democracy, but still there were parties, there were elections, and considerably free elections till Erdogan. And of course, Erdogan kind of destroyed the very weak democracy, but still we have a strong tradition of resistance, we have a strong tradition of opposition. And for the first time in our history, they came together. And the only binding point is hatred of Erdogan. Mm-hmm. And he won the elections before because the opposition was not united. They got something like 30%, 25%, but since they are not together, Erdogan just found a way to get the power with something like 17%. Mm-hmm. Now they realize this after so many years, thanks God. And now the nationalists, social democrats, Islamists, LGBTQ communities, Kurds, Alevis, for the first time they came together. And Erdogan is the
all of them.
All of them,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we have never seen such a big united opposition before. And they are really very to the point, and they want nothing but to end this unlawful regime. That is something new. And plus, Erdogan in the weakest position now. The economic crisis is so huge. After the earthquake, it's doubled. And he was playing games, international games, together with Putin, etc. But nobody cares about his international position at the moment. They are really starving in the country. So that's why I really see a real chance for the opposition this time.
Let's get back together to the beginning of his rule. When was the first moment when you started thinking, or you understood that Erdogan is a threat, that for your country?
2002.
Really?
The first day.
Uh-huh.
In fact, before then, when he became the mayor of Istanbul. Because it was clear, he was saying that he was a guy who wants to bring Sharia into Turkey. He was a political Islamist from the beginning, and he was a threat. And he was saying that. He was saying that he doesn't believe in democracy, he doesn't believe in freedom, only he believes in God. And he was saying that Islam should be dominating the country. So he was a political Islamist, radical one from the beginning. And we were warning the threat was there. But he was playing games like as a liberal in his first years and trying to convince the Europeans that he's not a dangerous guy. He's just trying to be a liberal and make Turkey in European Union family, etc. And many people bought that. And in the beginning, even in Turkey, some liberals bought that. But the only reason why he was playing this game was to get rid of the army in front of him, because army was the kind of protector of the country, the secular regime, and he was trying to clear the army from the political scenery. And of course it was a true attempt. Normally, why should we have army in a democracy? And that's why many people supported him in this. But his plan was, after clearing the army from the political arena, to fulfill its position and got the whole power to himself. And then he did it, and then he forgot about the liberalism, about the European ideals, etc. And full force he captured the power.
During the first 10 years of his presidency, his security forces managed to unveil several plots, sledgehammer plot, Ergenekon organization. From that point and from today, do you know that was all organized by the authorities, or something was real, or what was it?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question for all of us, because there's been discussions over this for the last 2 decades. I'm somewhere in between. Some people believe in that there was no threat against Erdogan. It was all prepared, staged by himself to protect his power. And some people that there was, a real threat against Erdogan, and the army was trying to topple him down, and that's why he was right to smash the army, etc. I'm somewhere in between. I guess there was a real threat against Erdogan, and they were trying to, topple him down, as they did several times. But Erdogan was clever enough to use these plots to smash the opposition against himself. So he didn't only punish the generals preparing a plot against him, but punish everyone who's against his power. And he was clever to, clear all the opposition, to have the full power in his hands. So, the plot was something real and dangerous, but Erdogan is also a big threat for Turkish democracy.
Correct me if I'm wrong. At one point, he added to his ideology, apart from being only moderate Islamist, he brought something that is called Neo-Ottoman ideology. So he became the symbol of new Ottoman Empire.
He wanted to be. Let's say.
Was it popular? Was it the new engine behind his?
That's true. He wanted to be the new sultan of not only Turkey but for the whole Islamic world. And in the beginning he was giving those messages to the Islamic world that Islam should be dominating the world politics, and we should be powerful against the Christian world, etc. But he was saying that as a member of EU, European Council, and as a candidate for the European Union.
A member of NATO.
And a member of NATO, protecting their interests in the region. So nobody believed in that in the Islamic world, of course. So it turned into a kind of propaganda war within the Islamic community. In some places like Palestine, like Jordan, it worked. But in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, nobody took him seriously.
But in Turkey, was it important for the part of the population in Turkey?
For some.
Because I always have parallels, because the same methods were used by Putin, and it was not from the beginning, but at some point after Erdogan did that. I would say that was 2011, 2012, when Putin realized that he should restore
An empire.
Russian Empire, imaginary Russian Empire, and he started using that mythology.
It could have been an important message if he had the leverages to build this empire up again, But when you talk about Turkey, you cannot always, for every country, you cannot talk about one community, one society. So some supporters of Erdogan believed in him, let's say 20%, but 80% were laughing, for this, because it's just an imagination, It's a kind of wish that would be nice if Turkey would have an empire again. But you need an economic power for this, right? I mean, some military power would not be enough. And imagine your military power is connected to the Brussels, to NATO. How can you build up an Islamic empire if you are connected to NATO, to Brussels?
But the feeling of being insulted, feeling of being rejected by the European Union, is it important?
It is important, of course. With this disappointment, many people, turn their eyes to East, especially to Russia or to Islamic world. And Erdogan has been playing look, we tried our best to be a member in the EU, but we were rejected. So let's turn into our roots. Our roots are in the East, and we are an Islamic country, and we have to have good relations with our neighbors like Russia, like Iran. So that was the policy of him. But it's more like playing, giving people an identity, So Atatürk did the same 100 years ago. So he offered a kind of identity to Turkish people and saying that you are not only a Muslim community, you are Turk. So giving this identity, he created this republic. And now Erdogan is trying to counter this revolution as a counter-revolution and trying to put Islam again as an identity to the people instead of being a Turk or Western, modern, whatever. You are an Islamist. You are a Muslim. So some people bought this identity. They needed it, but most of the people don't care.
What do you think? How important that philosophy and that ideology, that identity, is to Erdogan himself? Is he a true believer in what he says, or it's just a method to stay in power?
Well, I can say both, because he really believe in a kind of Turkish Neo-Ottoman Empire type thing, and be a kind of hero in the eyes of the Muslims, billions of Muslims. But at the same time, it's a kind of political tool, of course, for him to give the people the impression that they are the biggest. Look at Germany now. I mean, in Germany, people are living in a democratic society and voting for Erdogan. And what's the reason for this? The only reason is Erdogan gave them an identity, So you are Turk, even if Germans are, behaving like a second-class citizens to you.
That's normal. A lot of people who live in Germany are fans of Putin.
Yeah, that's the diaspora psychology, because, they don't feel first-class citizens here. They have kind of reactions, and those leaders using this reaction to turn this reaction into a support for themselves. So that's why it's so easy for them. Hey, you are the biggest nation in the earth. So vote for me, and we'll be, getting rid of those Christian guys or Western guys. So Erdogan really used it for decades, and it's been really successful. He's got something like 70% here in Germany.
Could you tell your stunning story of how you became Erdogan's number one enemy, starting your coverage of Gezi protests in 2013, or before that?
Yeah, it's before, really. I mean, in his first months in power, we went to a trip to Africa together, and we haven't known each other. And in my first coverage about the visit in Algeria, I guess, he didn't like my article, and the other day he wrote it and he started criticizing me. And it was weird. Before then, no politician was so brave to, criticize a journalist because of an article. And he said, "How can you write something like this?" I said, "Come on, I mean, is it true or not?" He said, "Yeah, it's true, but you shouldn't have written this." And the same thing has happened in Gezi protests, and I was criticizing the government, and I was fired from my paper. Then I learned that he gave my name to the boss, said that you have to sack this guy out.
He demanded
directly
fire.
Gave a file together with another colleague from my paper, and we were fired because of him. And then then I went to another paper and has become the editor-in-chief of this paper, and then I published a story of his intelligence service was trafficking arms to Syria, to the jihadists there. And he couldn't deny the story, and he said, he's gonna pay the price for this article.
Yeah, he publicly
said that the other day. The other day. He was on TV the other day. And I was in London watching the TV and with my son, and I said, "This guy will pay a price for this." And I tweeted this. But since then he's been right, I've been paying the price for the last 7 years or more, almost 10 years now, yeah. So I was sacked, I was fired, I was imprisoned, I was attacked.
For any Russian viewer, that's
a new story.
That's really unimaginable, because how come the journalist could be fired and imprisoned, but now he's sitting safe and sound in Berlin? And
that's right.
And you were released you were not pardoned by Erdogan. You were released because of the decision of the Constitutional Court.
That's right. Yeah.
How could that happen? What the hell is happening with judiciary system?
It was also
in Turkey?
A surprise for me, because normally Erdogan was trying to control all the judiciary. So he had a huge control at that time, back in 2015. He had a full control over the judicial system, except the Constitutional Court, because you have to, you cannot just change the Constitutional Court judges like this. So they have to fulfill their period, 10 years, etc. So almost all the Constitutional Court judges were appointed for 10 years or so. Then Erdogan couldn't change them. So the Constitutional Court decided for my release, and they said that this article is not a terroristic act, but it's a pure journalism. So with this decision, they released me. But Erdogan said, "I don't obey this rule."
And still you were released?
Yeah, after my release, he had to accept this, but he said, "I don't obey this decision." And the other day, he said, "I don't accept this decision." But he had to, But then, after the military coup attempt in 2016,
you were released and fled.
No, I didn't fled. I went back to my job again. I was working in Turkey for 6 months or so, and I was released and I started working again. And in the summer, I went to holiday into Spain after 6 months of work in my paper. And while I was in Spain, the military coup attempt has happened back in 2016.
Was it a real coup?
I guess it was a real coup, and it was really dangerous for him. Of course, he used it again for his sake, but it was something dangerous, I guess, for the country as well as for Erdogan. But first thing he has done in the second day is to arrest the high judges of the Constitutional Court, and he put them in jail. Imagine a president put the high judges into prison, and I was in the same prison with them. Now they release me, and they are now in that Silivri prison in Istanbul.
Are they still there?
Still there.
Still there.
So they are paying the price of releasing people like me. That's why then I realized that it's impossible to go back now, because he now has the whole full control and really clearing up all the opposition. And I was right. Then he arrested 10 editorial board members of our paper, together of thousands, hundreds, thousands of people after the military coup. And then everything has changed in Turkey. After 2016 military coup attempt. He had go for full authoritarian rule after this.
But still, he did not abolish the political parties. He still did not abolish the opposition, and there is still, as we see now, the possibility for oppositional parties to have an access to the media.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to understand. I know. I mean, Turkey is an exceptional.
Yeah, because we've got the case where it's much easier.
That's true. Yeah, most probably Erdogan would love to have such an easier rule, but not easy in Turkey. Turkey is not a proper democracy, but not a totalitarian state. People are asking me if he's a dictator or Turkey is a dictatorship. I don't think so, because we don't have this kind of total rule in Turkey. Still not. But some people think that if we lost this election, Erdogan could be a dictator and Turkey could be a total totalitarian system. It could be Turkey's last election. I don't agree with this, but there are claims like this. But still, as you said, Turkey is stuck in between. And there's a strong opposition, tradition, and at the same time, Turkey is, has good relations with the Western world, US, Europe, even if they don't care anymore the human rights issues, but you cannot go directly to a totalitarian regime like Russia.
As far as I know, when you left to Berlin, your wife stayed in Turkey just like a hostage.
Exactly, for 3 years he kept her as a hostage to silence me.
Her passport was
confiscated
canceled.
at the Her passport was cancelled at the airport. In fact, she had a passport and they said it's not valid anymore and sent her back to our house. And after this, they confiscated all our assets, house, car, bank accounts, everything we have. Then she had to leave the country without passport illegally. And 3 years.
How?
Yeah, from the Aegean Sea. She took a boat.
On the boat.
Yeah.
Like Syrian refugees did that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really tough time, and I was so worried, of course, about her, because but we couldn't find any way. Really, we tried every way. The political, diplomatic channels didn't work, and finally we decided to do it illegally. And now she cannot go back because she left the country without passport.
But so are you.
Yeah, exactly. So going to country is a problem. Leaving the country is a problem for us. So the only way to go back to country is getting rid of Erdogan.
We know that. For many years, I was when I was comparing Russian situation with the media with Turkish. I've always, for some years, I thought that we are not that bad, because there were news about YouTube being blocked in Turkey, Wikipedia was blocked, Twitter was blocked. What else? That's it.
But for temporary, YouTube is not blocked yet, so we can broadcast in YouTube, and this is the only the most important in Turkey in the media. Many of us are on YouTube, and millions has been watching it. So they blocked it temporarily, and he cannot block it totally. Social media is, of course, so important for us. In the lack of free media, everybody is on social media, and this is another concern about the election night. If we can block the social media again, that would be a big threat for all of us. Because this is the only way people get information, free news, even if there are fake news a lot, of course, as always the case. But in Turkey, YouTube is the only channel at the moment that people get information from.
As far as I understand, the turning point for the battle against Erdogan was 2019, where was a mayor election of Istanbul, and
In fact, the turning point was Gezi protests
Uh-huh.
back in 2013. From then on, Erdogan realized that millions are against him and they can get rid of the government via force in the streets. For the first time, millions were on the street, and this was the biggest revolt in Turkey's history. In more than 80 cities, all of a sudden, there was an amazing kind of revolution. And then he had to give the order of opening fire against people, and many people died there. And since then, after this, everything turned kind of an autocratic system, and he used more power against the people. But still, I mean, till 2016, he was pushing, but he was not successful yet. But with the military coup attempt, he got the power, and then he got the approval from the people to have a president. The election, of course, changed a lot because he had been running Istanbul for a quarter century, 25 years. And there's a saying in Turkish politics that whoever lost Istanbul, the next step will be Turkey. Because Istanbul is the symbol and the biggest city. And if you lost in Istanbul, that would mean that you will lose the Turkish election in the coming election. So it's now, this Sunday will be the time to lose this Turkey for him.
yeah, but it seemed like he disqualified the mayor from possibility to run as a presidential candidate, but that didn't stop the opposition. So that leader, as Imamoglu, was not the only leader.
No. Yeah, we have alternatives. That's the good side of it, So opposition cleverly accepted it instead of, making big noise. They just changed it and
just accepted the sentence against Imamoglu, and
in fact, he was not the most popular candidate within the party. So party had a leader, and in fact, everybody was expecting him to be the candidate against Erdogan. Now this is it. So instead of the party leader showing a mayor of a city would not be good for the party's self-discipline. That's why they didn't oppose it a lot. And in fact, everybody within the party knew that the president's candidate will be the leader of the party. So that's why, okay, if you wanna, if you put a kind of sentence over the Istanbul's mayor, it's okay, let's go on. Because, leaders like Putin and Erdogan, they like this polarization, using hatred against the people. So that was a trap, and the opposition understood it very well this time, and they didn't go into this trap.
You believe that he can lose right in the first round of the election?
Almost all the opinion polls at the moment show that he can lose in the first round, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he would leave power.
Doesn't he control the
system?
The system.
Yeah, this is
Can the elections be rigged?
Yeah, he tried it in Istanbul. He tried to cancel the elections, and they did it second time, and he lost with a bigger majority. So that's a lesson. There's still some institutions in Turkey working against all odds, and imagine 6 parties came together, and just before this interview, I was watching the meetings of the opposition leaders. Imagine 6 opposition leaders at the same day doing meetings, and each one covering 3 cities in one day.
Mm-hmm.
So amazing election campaign, all of them, together with 2 mayors, Istanbul and Ankara's mayors. So 8 leaders against one Erdogan, weak, ill, trying to give voice. And he's not even, cannot talk on during the meetings, and he's showing videos to the people because he doesn't have enough power to talk even. So we have a sick leader, and in the opposition, 8 leaders working together in the whole Anatolia. And there are some liberals, they are going to the liberal states, and there are some Kurds going to the Kurdish states. There are some conservatives going to the conservative states, and we have never experienced something like this. Of course, he has some power, and he will do his best to, fake the elections.
What can he do if he does not accept the defeat?
Well, I'm a bit concerned about the last couple of days before the elections, because in the previous elections he tried something like international crisis and military operation against Syria or against Greece. All of a sudden some bomb explosion somewhere. Back in 2015, Turkey had 2 elections. One was in June, and in the June elections 5 million people voted against him. They used to be his supporters. They changed their vote and voted for opposition. And after this election, while the opposition was trying to build up a new government, all of a sudden Turkey has turned into a war zone with a huge bloodshed. Bombs are exploding everywhere. The tens of people were dying. And this was the bloodiest period in Turkey's history for 5 months. And at the end of 5 months, Erdogan said, "You see what happened to the country, so let's go to the polls again, and if you vote for me this time, everything will change." And in November, we had another election, and 5 million people voted for him again, and he came back to power. So we learned a lot from this period. In 5 months, 5 million people can change their votes, because the security is the most important thing in their life. Not money, not, nothing else. Not religion, but security. So if he want to play the same game, he cannot play it in Syria because Putin would not allow him to do. He cannot do it with Greece. The Americans wouldn't like it, or the NATO. But he needs an international crisis or a national crisis. So this last couple of days are really important. And this is one thing. Another thing is he can do something in the election night, as Trump did it in the US, or Bolsonaro in Brazil, sending his supporters to the streets and creating a chaos. So we are all prepared for such scenarios. And just the opposition leader yesterday talked about dark web kind of preparation, and they are working together with some foreigners who knows how to use dark web, and most probably they will be presenting some fake videos about the opposition leader with a new voice, etc. So he can try, but we are on alert, everybody in Turkey is alert at the moment, not to give him this opportunity. But still, the threat is there.
What are you going to do if the opposition wins?
The next day, I would love to go back.
The
next day. But of course, I have a imprisonment more than 50 years. So with this story, I got something like about
50,
more than 50. So about this new story about Turkish intelligence operation in Syria, I got 27 years.
27 years,
And they put me in the perpetrator of Gezi protest, and gave another 18 years from this case. So altogether around 50 years. So new government should clear all those political punishments and release the political prisoners, I guess. Then I would be allowed to go back. Of course, I would love to go.
What do you think should happen to Erdogan?
Oh yeah,
Often.
I really don't know, and I'm dying to know it.
Is there some kind of discussion in Turkey, or it's
No.
just everyone is too cautious to think about that?
Yeah, I guess they are too cautious to think about it. The first thing first, we have to win. And then what would happen, there are different scenarios. First, he can leave the office peacefully, go to his house, wait for another election. This is the democratic way. But everybody believe that. This is not Erdogan's type. So what else? He can be put in prison. Normally that should be the case because he did a lot of crimes and he had to be judged. He has to be judged in front of the judge because of his corruption cases about illegal operations, etc. So this is a radical view, and some people that believe that, as Bolsonaro did, he would leave the country the other day, go to Amman or wherever, and live the rest of his life there. So those are the scenarios, but nobody knows what would happen to him. I hope he knows.
What do you think can happen to his ideology and to his to Neo-Ottomanism, like just that Erdogan style of populism?
That's a very important question.
That is supported by not half population, but almost half population. Yeah.
I guess if he loses this election, political Islam would lose in the end. And it was a kind of utopia for many people because they believed that if Islam rules the country, everything would be great. But they saw it in the end, it's a ruin. And the difference between Russia and Turkey, I guess, there's a system in Russia which the system can persist without Putin. So someone can replace him and the system would work, I guess, without him. Yeah, not that strong maybe, but the system is there. In Turkey, there's no system without Erdogan. No one can replace him. No one can run the country without his power. He was an exceptional case, and without him, I don't think that his party would survive. And the party will over, the political Islam would be over. Of course, at something like 15%, 20% of the people still believe that he's a prophet, he's the hero. So it's impossible, almost impossible to change their minds. They are really poisoned. But his support is something like 35% now. And I guess 20% of it believe that there could be a better solution, but they don't trust the opposition yet. But they are ready to leave Erdogan if they can trust the opposition. And they have some interest about the government, etc. They are earning money, getting money from the government. Their son is working for the government, etc. So they have a kind of interest relationship with Erdogan. So if they can, they trust the opposition. Erdogan's real vote is something like 20%, nothing else.
What is happening to his health?
Yeah, I mean, for the last 10 years, everybody there are rumors that he's a cancer, he's almost dying, etc. This kind of those stories. But I guess he's healthy.
The last days were he looked
I mean, he only. So some people believe that he was against staging a theater because he needs support of the people and people would be merciful about him.
Really?
Some people believe it. I don't think so because he wouldn't do it in front of the cameras because it was the television program live when they had to cut the program for 7 minutes and many people all of a sudden in social media the hashtag was he's dead. And there was a huge discussion for 7 minutes, but he went back to the screen. And he canceled some programs the other day, but on the third day he was on the meeting again. So I don't think that he's deadly ill, but he has, of course, problems with his health. But that day he succeeded to get into the opening together with Putin. And Putin gave him a good support, I guess, at that day on the opening of the nuclear plant in Turkey.
Is Putin's support important for the Turkish population? What's the most popular position for Turkish people? Are they still pro-Western, or mostly anti-American?
Well, it is very difficult to talk about a unique Turkish population,
Yeah,
you know.
it's
So
very
I should
complicated
explain
as in every country. But
So every country. So I should explain like at least half of the people they would love to see Erdogan shaking hands with the world leaders, of course, and they are ready to buy this image. He's a strong leader, and everybody wants to talk to him. So. And nowadays, I guess not only Turkish people, but for example, German government also very appreciate his relations with Putin, together with Zelensky, and they need him for a kind of negotiation talks, etc. So this image he's presenting very well and selling to the Turkish people that, look, Western world also needs me. I have good relations with Putin. If I call him, I can talk to him, etc. Look, how can the opposition leader can talk to leader like Putin or Biden, etc. So it's something, they give people kind of proud. But for half of the people, they don't believe in that. And they believe in a kind of Western democracy, and they want Turkey to be a member in the EU. And this is a traditional, modern Turkish set of thinking, you know. I think that most of the people will be voting for Turkey's traditional path, because it's a kind of tug of war between the East and the West, and Turkey used to be a candidate for the Western family, and now...
Saying traditional path, you mean Western path?
Yeah. So, I mean, for decades, for the 70 years, Turkey was trying to, be a member in the EU, etc., till Erdogan. And Erdogan said, okay, if they don't want us, we don't want them. Let's get a good relation with Russia and Islamic countries. So he changed radically the Turkish foreign policy. And I guess this election will be decisive if Turkey would go back to his Western roots or go on with Russia and the Islamic world. My question will be to you, what effect would that make in Russia if Erdogan loses the election?
Psychologically, I think psychologically that would be important, because a lot of people not normal people. Normal people just think that that's the way how it should be, and Putin is forever. A lot of people were born under Putin, and they have never seen any other leader except for him. But many intellectuals are now thinking that the democracies don't work. The authoritarian regimes are much more effective, because democratic leaders are very dependent on their approval ratings, on the social media, on the number of likes, and so they cannot make the decisions. They cannot be flexible. They cannot be tough. They cannot have a strategy.
That's true.
And that's the privilege of the authoritarian leaders. They don't care about the population, about approval ratings. They can make the decisions. So for many people, they feel that the number of authoritarian regimes in the world will grow, and as it's happening in many countries, as it's happening in
that's true.
In Asia, in Latin America, and probably can happen again in North America.
That's true. Yeah, that could be helpful for changing the minds of those kind of people.
So Turkey could be like the first example of the movement in the exactly opposite direction. So democracy of the world is decided in Turkey.
Hopefully, we'll do our best.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.